Yeah, hello everyone. Again, coming back to this video where I've actually talked about this game in the earlier video as well. This game is basically when I was playing with the black pieces against white. White was 2037 rated. I am 2028. Um, and on this game, um, white plays a very common idea, which is the English attack, because I allow the English attack by playing Sicilian Najdorf. White takes up playing the English attack, and he does it pretty well. However, this game was not one in which black did not have the opportunities. It's about finding and learning from those opportunities that we had, and I squandered. So let's start. E4, C5, knight to F3, D6, very common Sicilian ideas. Uh, D4, C takes D4, knight takes D4, knight to F6. This is very common idea in Sicilian. Again, if you have seen my first video, this is exactly the same line. Knight to C3, A6, Sicilian Najdorf. So again, very clear idea of the Sicilian Najdorf coming into play here. White plays F3, which kind of indicates the English attack setup. He will go bishop to um, bishop to e3 next. He'll try to castle on the queen side and then push his pawns on the king side to attack my castle king on this side. So that's his idea. This is again common move e5. White retreats. I start thinking about developing my pieces, castling on the king side. His idea again is same, bishop to e3, just like I mentioned. I play bishop to e6, queen to d2, readying his castling on the queen side. I play an intermediate move, developing my knight. Then he castles on the queen side. I castle on the king side, and here comes the pawn push. Black needs to reciprocate in change, so we also make the pawn push, trying to attack his knights on his queen side, where his king is now situated. This is actually not the right move. The right move here is to continue with his pawn push on this side and play and try to displace my knight. So the knight has to go to this um, not so good square on the edge of the screen, or on the edge of the board, or come back into this very passive square on e8. So he needed to do that. He did not. Uh, he pushed his pawn on h4, which allowed me to play, which is the best move in the position, b4. He puts his knight uh, in the critical square of d5. So d5 in Sicilian is a very critical square. This is the square, apart from the attack which is happening on the king side and the queen side. This is the most important, you know, most important reality in the middle of the board. So this is the square. The after this initial pawn push to e5, this becomes weak. This square on d4 becomes weak, and all of black's pieces and white's pieces are trying to control this square. So once he lands his knight on the square in d5, I have no option but to take with my bishop. Notice if I take with my knight, the bishop is completely trapped now. So I have no option to take it with my take the piece with my knight and protect my bishop. So I take with my bishop. He takes with his bishop. Sorry, he takes back with his pawn, and I push my pawn. Continue pushing my pawn uh, on the king side, or no, rather on the queen side. So his next move again is to keep attacking my knight, which is placed here, push it to a to a not so good square, either um, let me see what the computer suggests, either in h5 or back to e back to e8. What the computer also suggests is to play something like a uh, 5 here. So if you play that and say black and white ends up taking, you can also take. And by the way, white cannot take this back here because that's completely losing. So even if you like. take this, uh, take back, and then there is uh, I'll have another queen on the board, and it's completely winning. There's no way you can win this from white's perspective. So that's what the computer suggests is one of the alternate moves. Uh, but he quietly plays h5, which is not such a great move. Here, I continue playing the best move on displacing the knight from the central square, from not from controlling any central squares. It retreats back. Now comes the critical position, um, where there are certain decisions that need to be taken, right? Should I keep pushing more, or are there any other options? If you keep pushing more, there might be chances to open up the attack on this particular king, have some lines open on this particular file, on this A file where the rook already sits. So do we do that? Yes. What I ended up playing was this move, which was not too good. What we should have done is focused, now that his knight is badly placed and it cannot come out unless and until he makes some preparatory moves. Either he plays this, or he tries to break away. Um, he has to probably play this, um, this this move to place his knight here and then continue something like that. So I shouldn't have like let him have um, a getaway square by just playing this move. So he can easily take, and I can take, and he can come back, and lots of things can happen. So the best move here is the idea of the two ideas here. So one is to attack this particular pawn, right? We already have a single attacker there. The computer suggests this move precisely because even though it loses this pawn, by the way, you can you can take this pawn, and that is much more important than this pawn on the side of the board. You can, and it it literally says that you have to, and this knight is now super. It kind of attacks both pieces here and here, so you lose either this dark square. So you ultimately lose this dark square bishop. If you come back here, you just lose this dark square bishop, and then there is attack on the. Then there is a very natural developing move for skewering the queen and the king. So what the computer suggests, he sees that, right? So what the computer suggests here is to simply take here with your rook, so that you don't get into that skew, or lose a piece for free. You're just so if you don't take, you just retreat the queen back, like I showed. You take this, and now you can't take it back with your queen if you don't want to lose a queen. Yeah. So yeah, pretty difficult position for white to handle here. So yeah, I did not calculate that, and that was the first mistake. The other idea here is, if you don't see this incredible rook lift, which is difficult and not a very natural move, then the idea again is to start attacking this particular pawn, as well as to start mm, freeing up this area, this square here on d7, for if your knight eventually needs to retreat here, right? So if your knight eventually needs to retreat, it needs a place which is better than say e8, and d7 is a much better place to occupy, because you have natural developing square to the c5 square, you have a jump square to b3. If some exchanges happen on e5, you can jump there. So that's something that the computer suggests also. So here you take, I take back, and still you have a very nice position. The computer shows 3.4 points benefit or advantage to black here. But I blew my chance here, and I just pushed the pawn. It brought the position back to equal. It's still showing a minus zero point 0.4 benefit for, or advantage for black, but it, you know it's it's basically equal. It just At this point in time, I basically blew out my entire advantage. The next move was also terrible. I just took um, on this C2 square, gave his knight a great square to jump into, making his knight much more active than what it was on A1. And from here, again, the option was to um, w- was to start bringing my knight here. I don't know if that is as good now. No, it's not. But what the computer suggests here is this h6 move, and you will obviously get terribly concerned with the fact that your bishop and your queen look into that particular pawn. So there is ideas of of just sacrificing the bishop here and then starting to push. Uh, but uh, there are it's not that bad. So and if you just want to push your pawns here, try to open this file for your rook. You take here, uh, and then say you play something like we play here. For example, I'm not even playing the best move here. And then say you start thinking about, sorry, I shouldn't have played that move. Say you play a very normal move like this, and you start thinking about breaking this up. There is hardly any possibility to do that, to be very frank with you. You can just play this, pawn move up. There is no way he can break through. You can keep pushing. You can just block, and that's it. This file never opens. So this file never opens. So this pawn push here is another idea to or another learning to keep in mind. Um, this move here is a solid defensive idea, which it's very difficult to calculate in the game itself. But if you know that this exists, you will definitely consider it, and yeah, and we we might end up playing it when it is absolutely critical to be played. So yeah, here the game continues. I played this move again. It's a one trick idea here is to place my rook here and just fork the king and the queen, which my opponent spots really well. He plays his king over, doesn't even care about capturing my piece because his bishop is really strong on this diagonal. So from here, I think my opponent played really well. He slowly converted the position and won the position. Uh, so I'm trying my desperate uh, to make sure my defensive pieces, which is the bishop and the queen, now look at these pawn advances, try to move to the king side to protect the pawns. Uh, he plays the knight to b4. His idea is to come here. It's very simple. Come here, fork the queen and the bishop, win the bishop to win the bishop with check. So a lot of tactics can unfold here. And and this is not very concerning to be very frank with you. I mean, yeah, his piece is really good, but given the amount of attack he has on the king side, mm, I quickly needed to have something counter attacking going on the queen side. So what I played was not in the right spirit of the position. I just played my knight to b8 to prevent his knight from jumping in here, and that was a terrible move. It was really bad. So what the computer suggests here is much better. You just push your knight here with some tempo, let the bishop, let the queen move, and then you can start exchanging this piece, this bishop, which is a really uh, good bishop, so that you have some defenders on this side of the board. Okay. obviously that didn't happen, and he kept pushing his pieces on the king side. And then I play this move, which now he has a very good defense. Just plays his queen to g2, which he did. And now this pawn, you have to take this pawn. You can't block this pawn. Earlier, on the earlier move, the pawn was here, so you can easily place your bishop here and prevent him from pushing your pawns anymore, and prevent him from like pushing his kingside pawns anymore. Now you have to take this pawn to place your bishop here, and both the queen and the pawn look at it. So you don't have the opportunity to play that move. You'll just lose your bishop.